where the silence ends. This romance novel is about people who don't know how to ask for help. It's about unseen pain. It's about silent moments that speak volumes. It's about how a single chance encounter can mark the beginning of something new. Not a loud love, but a warm presence. Not salvation, but a return to yourself. Listen to that. Perhaps you'll recognize yourself in it. A pharmacy at night. Silence. The sound of fluorescent lights. Anna sat behind the counter, wrapped her palms around a mug of iced tea. On the clock, 2:46. On the screen of the old monitor, a hovering prescription form. The phone hasn't rung for a second day. In the nighttime pharmacy, time didn't pass. It stood still, as if someone had turned it off. Behind the glass walls, the street was reflected, as empty as Anna herself inside. She had long ago stopped looking around, long ago stopped waiting for anything. She only nodded to those who came for sleeping pills, bandages, sometimes alcohol, if the bar around the corner was closed. Tonight was a quiet night. Not even an ambulance. Suddenly the door jingled, quietly, almost apologetically. Anna looked up. A man stood in the threshold, tall, wearing a dark jacket. He took his time coming in, as if checking to see if it was okay. She tensed. At this hour, it was either the familiar or the strange. He was unfamiliar, and he didn't look strange. He looked tired. Not dangerous, but with a kind of heaviness in his body. "Good night," she said to break the tension. "I'm sorry," he replied. His voice was low, slightly husky. "Do you have any eye drops?" "Specify which ones." "For the dog, allergies, I think." She's scratching her eyes and blinking a lot. Anna's up a little. "And the vet?" "Closed. She's not well. I live around the corner." He spoke like someone who hadn't communicated in a long time, clearly but as if remembering the words. Then she saw a shadow slip across the glass behind him. An old dog. Lame. With gray hair on his face. She stepped cautiously into the light, stopped, glanced around the drugstore as if choosing whether or not to enter. Anna approached the window. "How old is she?" "8," he answered. "Then you have time," she said softly. They both fell silent. Only the hum of the light and the dog's breathing behind the glass. He waited. She was pulling out a vial. When she held out the package, their fingers touched, and it felt as if everything around them was suddenly closer. "Thank you." "Is the name Radha a nickname?" she asked suddenly. He looked at her in surprise. "Did you read from the badge?" "Yes." Anna smiled slightly. He went out and the door jingled again. And only then she realized, for the first time in a long time, someone stopped not just for medicine. It was as if he'd seen her. For a second. Night a couple of days later. Anna's back on shift. This time with a bandage on her wrist. In the morning, she cut herself while rushing to get her little sister ready for school. She didn't want to go again. She hadn't said a word for 3 days. Teenage revenge for the prohibition to spend the night at her friend's house. Anna did everything quickly, dispensing prescriptions, checking boxes, wiping down the counter. Machine-like, only the time was creeping. At 3:15 in the morning, the door rang again. Same sound, the same silhouette. Daniel. He walked in a little more confidently, but still just as leisurely. No leash this time. Radha was outside the door, curled up under the window. "She's better," he said without waiting for a question. "Good," Anna nodded. "Just thought I'd say thank you. You helped." She suddenly felt she didn't know how to respond to gratitude. A pause. And you? He suddenly asked. Me. Anna was confused. How are you? You have a bandage. Anna lowered her gaze. Awkwardness with the knife. It was a bad morning. He nodded. You could tell he was staying out of other people's business, but he didn't pull away. Your dog is calm. How long have you two been together? Since I quit photography 8 years, he answered. I found her in an old warehouse. She was just a puppy, dirty, skinny, stared at me like she knew I wouldn't pass by. You kept your expectations, Anna said quietly. He looked at her, for the first time, directly, not politely, not through the veil, but as if he'd seen her. Who found you? He asked. She didn't immediately understand the question. I probably no one, she answered. I pull myself out every day. He nodded, and that was enough. They stopped talking. Radha stood up, limping slightly, and walked over to the glass. She didn't whimper, didn't stretch. She was just there. Anna looked at her, then at Daniel. You have someone to talk to, that's rare now. He smiled slightly. She listens better than anyone I've ever known. That's true. He walked away just as he had the last time, quietly, without turning around. But there was a warm trace in the air. It was a day off. That was rare for Anna. She'd stayed up until dawn. Her sister had come in late again, without answering a single message. But now she was asleep on the couch, curled up in a blanket, with the TV on and the remote in her hand. Anna quietly put on her sneakers and walked outside. No plan, just a walk. The city was different in the afternoon, loud, fast, lively. But there were stretches of it too, cracks where silence remained. She was walking past the square when she heard a familiar voice. The morning light suits you. She stopped. Daniel was sitting on a bench outside the coffee shop, with a cup in his hands and Radha at his feet. He was wearing a black jacket, his hair a little disheveled, and a slight awkward smile on his face, as if he were surprised he'd said anything resembling a compliment. Hello, she said. I'm sorry, that was weird. I'm just not used to seeing people out of the night in the daylight. Me neither, Anna grinned. I'm usually either asleep or out getting milk at this time. He picked up the second cup. I haven't had coffee with two people in 10 years. Would you accept it as a social experiment? Anna sat down next to him. Radha moved a little closer, resting her muzzle on her sneaker. She didn't pull away. Why did you drop the picture? Anna asked after a couple of sips. Because one day I stopped seeing it as something real, Daniel answered. Everything is more beautiful in the lens than in life. And then it was the other way around. She was silent, listening. It was unfamiliar. And you? He asked. Why a night pharmacy? Anna didn't answer right away. Because people talk less at night, and silence is something I know how to listen to. Daniel looked at her a little longer than usual. I thought it was about loneliness. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's about survival. He nodded. Would you like to go for a walk? Just for a bit. Radha is still getting tired fast. Come on. They walked along the alley. Radha moved slowly, sometimes stopping. Daniel talked about the abandoned station where he had once taken pictures for a magazine. Anna, about her childhood with her father, about her dream of becoming a teacher, which she left behind when everything collapsed. There was no big revelation. There was no violent emotion. There was silence between the words, and a feeling. This time, someone was there. They weren't surprised to see each other anymore. He'd run to the drugstore to pick up a Band-Aid. She left a thermos with tea at the door if she noticed his courier's bike in the driveway. It was all without words, but with attention. A real presence. In the evening, a week after the walk, Anna was standing at the coffee machine when she heard behind her, "Are you awake?" "I can't anymore," she replied without turning around. He handed her a glass, bitter but warm. They sat down on a bench near the empty park. It was quiet as only a big city at night can be. Rada lay down beside him, stared into the darkness as if there was something important there. "I used to take pictures of people a lot," Daniel began. "Weddings? Nonbede, real ones, not staged, street faces, hands, eyes, things they don't like to show." "Why not?" He didn't talk for a long time. Then he spoke without looking at her. "Because my wife always said, 'Take pictures like it's your last day.'" I didn't believe it, and then it really was the last day. For her. Anna didn't answer, just quietly put the glass aside and looked at him. He spoke calmly without a tremor, but there was pain in his voice. "The accident," he continued. "I was on the other side of town. She was on her way to get bread. An ordinary day, an ordinary road. Not her fault, no one else's, just the world saying enough is enough." He ran his hand over Rada's fur. "She showed up a month later. I didn't know what to do with myself. I was just walking, saw the dog by the iron door. I sat down next to him. We sat in silence for an hour. Then I took her home. And we haven't been apart since?" Anna was silent, but her hand, light, tentative, lay on Rada's arm. She did not move. "Sometimes," he said, "I think she came instead. Or after. I don't know. Maybe not instead. Maybe to keep it from disappearing altogether." He nodded. "I didn't talk about it. Almost no one. But you're like a pharmacy at night. The lights are on. And even if you don't go in, you know. You can." Anna lowered her gaze. "Maybe we're both lamps that we forgot to turn off." They sat in silence. Only Rada was breathing evenly deeply, as if holding them both. They sat in silence for a long time. The city gradually quieted down. Even the cars became less frequent. Even the wind sounded softer. Anna slowly reached for the remaining sip of coffee in her glass, but changed her mind. Instead, she spoke, without preparation, without too much. "I was 15 when my mom left. She just didn't come home." Daniel didn't move, just looked at her slowly, calmly. "Dad stayed behind. He drank. Not beating, just decomposing, slowly. I always thought I could save him, until I realized it was like curing a void." "And your sister?" "She was born when I was 20, by another woman, but she died in childbirth. The father couldn't handle it. I took the girl in, made it official. Now I'm her mom, her wall, her refrigerator, her algebra book." Rada sighed softly, resting her face on Daniel's lap. "Sometimes I think I love her more than anything in the world. And sometimes I think I'm tired of being everything to her. And that's scary. Because there's no such thing as being loved if you're just a function inside." Daniel was silent for a long time. "Do you ever get the feeling that you're just a temporary support?" she asked. "That love is a luxury you can't afford because you're afraid you'll disappear and everything will fall apart?" He nodded. "It was, until I was on my own. And I realized that everyone disappears, even those who promise to stay. So maybe it's better to burn than to fade into the shadows." She looked at him differently for the first time. Not as a client, not as a strange man with a dog, as someone who knew what he was talking about. "You speak beautifully," she said. "I used to sign pictures that way. Now I just think out loud. They didn't touch each other. They didn't come closer. But the air between them became warm." It was the middle of the week. Anna came home from her shift earlier than usual. The pharmacy was closed for maintenance, a rare respite. It was quiet at home, TV off, her sister's room empty. She dialed her number, beeps, then again and again. On the table, a note. "Don't worry, I'm fine. I just need quiet." Anna froze, like a stumbling block. In about 10 minutes, she was already on the street, running her eyes along sidewalks, alleys, calling all of her sister's friends. No one knew, or pretended to. She reached the coffee shop, one hope, and there he was, Daniel, in a sweatshirt, sitting with Rada at the bench. His face immediately turned wary when he saw her. "She's gone," Anna said sharply. "The sister just picked up and disappeared." He stood up. "When?" "I don't know. While I was chatting with you, while I was drinking coffee, while I was letting myself live, she was gone. It's not your fault." "Not my fault? I lost my voice." "Whose fault is it? I should have been there for her. I'm her rock. I'm all she has. And I let myself. You." Those words weren't a gunshot. They were destruction. Daniel froze. His face became stone. Rada stood up quietly, as if sensing that something had broken. "Understood?" he said. "Then, good luck with your search." He turned around, walked away. Without anger, no reproach, just like a man who realized he didn't belong. Anna was alone. Amidst the noise of the cars and the pain she'd caused herself. An hour passed, then two. Anna sat on the steps outside, her fingers trembling with panic and helplessness. She called everything. Hospitals, police stations, everyone she could remember. No sign of him. Just as the dreaded emptiness was beginning to sink in, the sound of brakes. Daniel, on his bike. "She's not in the park," he said, not waiting for an apology. "Nor in the old market, but in the old yard by the station. I saw something that looked like her jacket." Anna was silent, trying to control the throat that was constricting. "I shouldn't have said that." "It doesn't matter." He cut her off. It was more important to find her now. Everything else would come later. They walked towards the abandoned station, the place where he had once found Radu. It was already dark. The lanterns were out. Only the moon shone faintly. Rada pulled ahead, sniffing a little. Then she stopped in front of an old garage. Daniel sat down, looked inside. Someone was here, a bag, some rags. And then suddenly, Anna. She came over. In the back, a thin figure, wearing headphones, shrunken, asleep or pretending to be. Anna sat down next to him, cautiously touched her shoulder. "Chloe." The girl twitched, opened her eyes, tired, flooded with resentment. "I wanted silence," she whispered. "Just silence without reproach." Anna pulled her against her tightly, without words. "I'm sorry," she said. "I can't take it sometimes either." The two of them sat in an embrace. Daniel stood beside her. Rada lay down beside the girl and quietly nuzzled into her palm. "She is cute," said Chloe. "What's her name?" "Rada," Daniel answered. "I think she understands everything," said the girl. Anna looked at him. In the darkness, between them, there was no longer a reproach. There was silence, real silence, not like loneliness, but like home. They got home close to midnight. Chloe fell asleep almost immediately. Anna stood in the kitchen. Her hands were shaking. not from fatigue, but from the fact that there was too much on the surface. The feelings she was used to hiding were now disobeying. The bell, the door, him, Daniel. Silent, no questions, just stood there with the folder in his hands. I wanted to return what I took, he said, handed her a photograph, a real one, printed, not on a cell phone. It showed Anna in a drugstore, leaning over a display case. The light of the lamp frames her hair. The face is not tired, not closed, it's alive. When did you take that off? She whispered. A while ago, when I realized I could do it again. Because you are. Anna didn't look at him right away. Then she took a step. One, then another. And instead of answering, she just hugged him. Not passionately, not desperately, but precisely. Like a man who'd been freezing for a long time and only now realized he could get warm. Are you sure? He whispered. No, she answered. But I'm tired of being sure. I want to be real. Anna woke to the smell of coffee and something else. Warm, unfamiliar, almost forgotten. Peace. The room was quiet, but truly quiet. Not a tense emptiness, but that rare state when no one demanded or disappeared. She stepped out into the kitchen. Chloe was sitting at the table in her pajamas with her hair loose, eating cereal. Across from her was Daniel. He was holding the mug with both hands, as if he was warming himself with more than just his body. You have good taste in coffee, he said, nodding at her specialty can. I have good taste in people, Anna parried, her gaze becoming a little more serious. She turned to her sister. Is he going to come over often now? Like, are you going out with him? Anna didn't know what to answer. She didn't even know how she felt. Everything was too fragile, too new. I don't know yet, she said honestly. And if I do, will he be like a stepfather to me? There was a pause. Daniel shifted his gaze to Anna, the question clearly out of the question, but he wasn't afraid. If you don't mind, I'd rather be just someone who's around, he said softly. Who makes coffee? Who doesn't disappear? Chloe nodded, chewed her cereal, and added, Then you've already been cast. We don't have enough of those. And smiled, without being cocky. A real one. Pharmacy. Anna closes the cash register. It had been an ordinary day, with expired prescriptions, lost eyes, and questions that repeated like a circle. But inside her, there was something different, new, not like fireworks, but like a warmth in her chest that wouldn't go away even in the noise. The door rang. Daniel. He walks up to the counter, doesn't say a word, just puts a paper cup on the counter. On the side is her name. Not printed, handwritten. She takes it, looks at it, smells it, exactly the way she likes it. Do you have 5 minutes? He asks. She nods. They go outside. Radha is waiting for them by the bench, quietly, as if it were a regular ritual. Anna sits down. He takes out a camera, an old film camera. May I? Only if it's real. A click. The camera catches her looking away, not into the lens. Click. She's with Radha. Click. The sun slides down her cheek. He lowers the camera. This shot is not for publication. It's for proof that we were. She turns to him, looks at it for a long time. I don't know what will happen tomorrow, she says. But today you're here, and that's a lot. He takes her hand, unobtrusively, just like a man who won't disappear unless you ask him to. Radha settles at her feet. A minute later, Chloe walks up to them with a book under her arm, sits down beside her, without a word. The three of them, on the bench, silent, and silence, not the enemy at last. The end.